Good afternoon. Welcome to the April 9th, 2024 meeting of the Budget Committee. This is our regular monthly meeting. So we'll begin our meeting with a request from the Registrar of Voters. They asked if they could possibly be at the beginning of the agenda because I think they have a industry conference later today. So we have with us today our two Registrar of Voters, Fred DeCaro and Mary Hagerty.
Do we
Yes.
proceed then? Okay.
Yes, please.
All right. Well, thank you for those of you in television land who don't know. Every town in Connecticut has two registrars of voters. Mary is the Democratic registrar. I'm the Republican registrar. We work together very, very well. What you see before you is a request to use grant funds from a grant which was accepted by the RTM last year. Among the conditions set for that acceptance was that after Mary and I proposed the use, it come before the BET and then come back before the RTM. So the items that we are proposing using funds for are some supplies associated with early voting, some network improvements which have already been done and made to this room for the purposes of early voting. So we've expended that fund and money would be returned to the general fund. The largest portion of the purchase relates to the replacement of our electronic poll books. So we use those to mark off in an unofficial capacity. The paper is the official record. But this is how we mark off everyone who comes to the polling place and displays information online in real time. And also the parties are able to determine, or any guest who asks for a password, who has voted and who has not voted in real time. And we were even able to adapt that a little bit to use it during early voting to present some statistics. So our current poll books are 10 years old. And they are well past the end of their life. We were holding off on replacing them, waiting for information from the Secretary of State as to what they were going to approve. They have indicated they're not giving any approvals until at least 2026. So we said we can't get another 2 years out of them, but we believe that what we're buying will have about a 5-year life and should be usable in the future as well. Mary, do you have any comments?
Just the one other item, the sandwich boards, signage for elections and educational open houses. Sorry. Just the additional item, signage for elections and educational open houses, $10,000. And some of this is for sandwich boards that we use related to the 75-foot marking on election days. And now actually for early voting as well, because early voting is considered to be a polling place by federal statute. So let me see. Well, that related to a program that Fred and I instituted. Also, the larger signs we're hoping to create. We ran an election academy. 20 people attended our academy, and we instructed them in various aspects of elections. I think it was highly successful. It was also very time consuming. So for this year, which is our busiest election year, we've decided not to do the election academy. We'll get back to that again in the municipal year next year. But we want to have several open houses for anybody interested to come to our office, and the signage, some of the signage that we're interested in is related to that project.
Thank you. Any questions? Harry?
Yeah, just a quick question. How much of the fund will be left after this?
About $300,000, and we do have thoughts on that, but we really are waiting. The state will be deciding on new tabulators, and once they have decided on that, we will then know. We're 99% sure that the big metal election in the boxes that we have will not work properly for the new equipment, so we can use some of these grant monies to replace the election in the boxes. And we also have some additional handicap accessibility ideas. And finally, we know that if those monies are not spent all within this year, which is the second year of the grant, that we've been assured that the grant can be extended, into the next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're not rushing to find ways to spend it. Like, they've been very accommodating in saying, we understand the nature of your items, and the money's already here in town coffers, so they're not looking for a check back.
Thank you. Any other questions? David, Leslie? Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend approval to the BET of the use of grant funds for the registrar of voters for $74,000
Routine or routine?
as routine.
I'll second it as routine.
Okay, so, motion made by Ms. Moriarty, seconded by Mr. Fisher, for the approval of $74,000 usage of, the Election Excellence Grant. Those in favor?
Aye.
That vote is 400 and passes unanimously, and thank you both very much for your,
Thank you for accommodating us.
yeah,
Yep.
We can head off to
glad to do that.
beautiful Bristol, Connecticut.
Well, it's a beautiful day for a drive, to be honest with you. So, we have no windows here, so we don't even know how nice it is. The next item we have up is Human Services 1. And would you please introduce yourselves? And then this is a request, again, for a grant, and it's approval to use $46,299. And you can explain how you plan to use this grant.
Sure.
Or, and if you could introduce yourselves first.
Sure. My name is Tatiana Nikiforova. I'm a business
Speak closer to it, you should get less echo.
office manager for Human Services, and we're asking.
And next to you, you have?
Oh,
I am Danielle Jean-Guillaume Satal. I'm the Youth Services Bureau Administrator for the town.
Thank you.
we're asking to use the grant of 46. It has an echo. Anyway, $46,299 from State of Connecticut Department of Children and Families to cover the portion of youth program bureau director administrator's salary, and it will cover a little over a half of her salary. And also to use the $19,204 for the different activities and supplies for youth. And Danielle could explain more about this.
So I facilitate several programs, and one is the First Selectmen's Youth Commission, and we have a lot of youth-focused initiatives and projects and programs. For example, on the weekend, we partnered with the police department and YMCA, and we hosted Cops and Tots. And so there are some supplies for that event. And we have an event coming up. I'll show you, I have a poster. We hosted an event here called Debate for Democracy, where one of our students facilitated conversation about affordable housing, and some of it was scripted. And so different young people offered different perspectives on this challenging issue, and it was really robust conversation and interaction with the community. In May, for the past few years, we've hosted the middle school STEM fair, which once upon a time was a Zoom event that was not so well attended, and now it's this robust opportunity to engage for a broad range of kids in Greenwich. We have over 40 projects and young people engaging. We're going to have over 200 guests. We're partnering with the Greenwich Water Club, and they've hosted it for, this will be their second year, and it's just an exploding project. And funds for that activity will be used to fund awards and promotion and all the bells and whistles. You know, the state is allowing us to incentivize young people to engage in these opportunities. And so in the summer, we'll have a few projects where kids will engage. We're trying to promote positive youth development, which means interaction with peers and other entities in the community that support young people in their development. And these events have some costs that we'd like to have supported.
Do you coordinate with the Greenwich Public Schools on these events?
Yeah, so they're a partner, and, you know, when we promote this, I have to communicate with the superintendent's office to help promote these events. They're on their calendar. I engage, so I'm in the school regularly because I facilitate other programs with the schools and the town. One's the Juvenile Review Board, and one is the Greenwich Interagency Team. A lot of these programs are promoting positive youth development, mental health, social development, and just engagement in the community. And so we reach out to Arch Street, United Way, the library, so a lot of community partners in my work.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, David? Oh, Leslie? And then,
Yeah, I just, I'm sorry if I don't recall, but has this grant's been received before, is that correct?
Yes.
I was looking at the letter that you supplied in the documentation, so it refers to the old grant, but do you have RTM approval for accepting this grant already? Or is this a continuation of an existing grant that you had approval for?
Well, we're asking for approval because the grant amount changes every year, but it pretty much stays similar to what it is now.
So I guess we just need to verify that this grant is either covered by a resolution or whether they need to go to the RTM for grant acceptance. The BET doesn't accept the grants, the RTM does. We just allow you to spend the money of a grant. We can follow up with that question just on process and make a determination on the appropriations.
Roland, can you just send an email to Demetria and ask her if they have obtained the approval to use this grant, please? All right.
Yeah, two questions. Is this an administrator or a full-time employee?
This grant is covering portion of the part-time employee. Danielle right now is a full-time employee. The second portion of her salary is covered by ARPA grant now.
Okay, so does this end up making a part-time employee a full-time employee?
For 2 years, yes. But this grant is not making her a full-time employee. This grant is covering portion of her part-time
Part-time salary, okay. And also, it sounds like this carries over between fiscal years, because you talk about summer activities which would be after July 1st. So how do you reconcile this between the two fiscal years?
We are purchasing supplies in advance, and we are.
Well, we're going to do end-of-year activities, end-of-school-year activities, which will happen before the fiscal year ends. And some of our summer opportunities are with partners who will help support the funding.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Roland?
Yeah, Harry, all of the benefits are being charged the ARP money.
Okay.
Even though the salaries are split to make it a full-time person, the
Right.
benefits are all charged to ARP.
Okay, thank you. So we
Thank
just
you.
need to think about how that works in the future after the ARP funds are exhausted. Okay.
Any more question? Can I just, this letter was from July 24th, 2023. You're aware of this, and did you receive it about then, but just waited till now to?
Well, we're just asking for approval so this money could be transferred to, from the grant money to our regular money.
Okay, so Roland, you'll check and see about the grant?
I'm looking at the resolutions, and we have a standing resolution for the money from Department of Social Services, Children and Families.
Okay, so that it's covered by that
Yeah.
grant. Thank you, Roland. So that answers your question, Harry.
Yep.
Okay, super.
Thank you, Roland.
So, okay, I think we're fine here. May I
I'll make the motion.
ask, this is a motion?
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve the approval to use grant funds of $46,299 for the Human Services Department.
I'll second that and suggest it be routine.
Routine.
Okay, and this is both of you agree routine? Okay, so motion made by Ms. Moriarty, seconded by Mr. Fisher, for approval to use $46,299, and that as a routine item. Those in favor? That passes 400 unanimously. Thank you so much for your coming. Appreciate it. And so now we have our friends from the police department. This time with 2 grants. So again, in our process of introducing ourselves and then proceeding, we have, I'll just add that we have PD 4 before us, and this is for $10,000. It's approval to use. It's a 9/11 fund, and then PD 5, which is again approval to use. In this case, $16,000 for a port security grant.
Hello, how are you? I'm Captain Bonnie. I'm the operations captain at the police department. I have, the first thing that we'd like to procure.
You're our monthly visitor.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't mind. So the first thing we are trying to do is utilize a consultant company called KJR, and it is to work with our dispatch center. We've had some challenges there, maintaining personnel and hiring new personnel, and there are some. I already swapped, I took this one instead.
Okay.
So I don't know, that one seems to be more feedback. You know, we're working on morale. As you know, I'm already refurbishing the entire office in there. That's underway. Everything's scheduled for May. We had some, you know, when we hired the Zipic company to come, they discovered that it's not that easy to organize people in Greenwich, Connecticut to all work together, so. Not the town, no, it's all independent contractors that they're dealing with, but we're getting underway in May. So basically what we're looking to do is have this company that we've used before, consulting company. We utilized them in the past at the police department, and we found that they gave us a strong product, and that we were able to utilize the. Okay, we were able to utilize the information that we received from them multiple times since then, and we found that they're very professional and reasonable. So the fund that we're utilizing is the E911 fund, which is a state grant, and it allows us to utilize the funds inside the dispatch center and the 4 walls of the center, and this is an acceptable use of it. And, you know, we're working on retention. We have 2 openings now. There's another test. We basically have a test, constant testing for this, trying to get more people to come. And we're working with the personnel that we have now to try to get, you know, they're under a lot of stress. They work 24/7 and holidays, and they work in a tight quarters by themselves, and they deal with horrible situations. So we felt that if we had these consultants in there to try to figure out how to make it a more pleasant and amenable, professional place to work, anything is worth it to keep these people happy and to keep them here because we value them and we need them. And it's been a struggle to keep personnel there. So we're working on it, and this is a big part. Does anyone have any questions?
So thank you. Anyone have any questions?
I think the other one was better.
So I will say that I did call that dispatch center on Saturday evening for a friend.
Okay.
Or maybe you're smiling. So I just, I believe it was dispatcher number 28, and it was just a wonderful experience, and everything that he did for this friend was just really amazing.
Oh, good.
So, very positive. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to,
If there are no questions, I mean, that's my understanding, no
No.
questions, right?
no, to approve the recommendation approval to use grant funding from the 9/11 fund of $10,000 by the police department, and to be routine.
I'll second that as routine.
Super. Motion made by Ms. Moriarty, seconded by Mr. Fisher for use of the $10,000 using the 9/11 fund. So those in favor? Aye. So that passes 4-0 unanimously. So, another one.
Yes, we do. We have one more. It's for, it's another grant, and it's the Homeland Security Grant from 2023. And I had requested that they provide us with a trailer for one of our boats, and they agreed to pay for the entire thing, 100%. It's $16,000 for a load right aluminum trailer, and it will be able to handle Police Boat 125, which is the outboard boat that we just put new outboards on. And the new outboards that we got, which are Mercuries, are like unbelievably beautiful motors. And the only downside to these motors are you have to haul the boat to give it an oil change. And you have to do an oil change every 100 hours, and we've been using it a lot. What we have been doing is bringing it over to a commercial boatyard and paying to have them haul it so that we can change the oil to put it back. Well, this will eliminate that. We'll be able to just tow it out at Grass Island, change the oil, instead of spending 2 or 3 days out of service at a yard, paying to have it hauled and blocked. We're just gonna pull it out, do the oil change, stick it right back in that shift. So, I was very pleased when they accepted and offered to buy this for us, the feds. And it's going to really be a great help. Not to mention that during really bad storms or superstorms or anything like we had in the past, we could haul a boat out and park it up in a parking lot somewhere. And that's one less boat we have to worry about. The other two are too big to do that with. But this one boat, at least we could take that out. We won't have to worry about that boat.
Super. So do I have any questions? Harry?
Yeah, on the second page, you mentioned that it increases the availability of the vessel for mutual aid responses. I was not aware that we had any
Oh, yes.
marine-related mutual aid other than, going
Yeah.
out on the water to do this.
We do have a mutual aid dive team with a dive trailer that we are using out of federal equipment. And we have been used in different, we do a lot of body recovery in other jurisdictions where we tow our trailer up and utilize the trailer to do that. But part of our Homeland Security Grant acceptance is that we have to agree that we could respond in a crisis or in a national emergency to other jurisdictions to assist them. And we could actually do that with this trailer if we need to. And I'm sure that's probably one of the reasons why they gave us the boat, the trailer. But they've also provided us boats, and we do have an agreement with Fairfield County. There's a plan with Fairfield County that we will respond to assist in other jurisdictions, and we will also respond out of state to assist. And we have done that many times to New York.
But this would be the first time you do it with 125.
Well, I mean, we've never had the ability to actually move it. It would have to be something pretty substantial for us to take this
Okay.
boat somewhere. I mean, because it's extra wide load, you'd have to get permits. It's probably never gonna be done,
Okay.
But we will have that ability if they need us, you
Right.
know. But that's just something that we've included. It is true that we will respond to assist anyone if needed be, and if we're asked to by the feds,
Right.
based on our grant acceptance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? David? you have a question? Okay, so do I have a motion?
I move that we approve PD 4 as a routine item.
I'll second that as routine.
5.
PD 5, yeah.
So moved by David Weisbrod, seconded by Harry Fisher, as a routine item, to use $16,000 of a port security grant. So this is great. Those in favor? Aye. So 400. This is unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Thank
So
you.
I know this is over, and I should have asked the question before, but this says Port Security Grant 2023. Was that meant to be 2023 or 2024?
It's 2023.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a 3-year grant. We have 3 years to spend the money, and we got it in October of 2023.
Okay, great.
So-
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much. So our next item is a new business item. And this is really a follow-up of something that we'd also discussed in the fiscal year '25 budget. And this is a discussion of cybersecurity, including the use of finance consulting funds for townwide cybersecurity update. And so we have the head of our IT department with us, Tom Klein. And in our budget, we did put in $30,000 as an umbrella kind of thing, not to change any kind of reporting, not to do anything to change what the Board of Education has, but to just get an overall feel using our one corporate entity of Apollo for that. And in that discussion, Mr. Klein and our town administrator, Ben Branyan, also took it a step further. And they talked about and prepared just a very brief little chart saying that they would like to do an update of the current Apollo cybersecurity for the entire town, including the BOE. And there was further discussion about organizational changes. But I think at this point in time, we just wanted to talk briefly about Mr. Klein's request and the possibility, and, you know, obviously there is an audit committee meeting, I think, tomorrow. And overall, cyber has been handled there, but the use of consulting funds, et cetera, are a budget committee item. So we also put on here possible executive session because we don't want Mr. Klein to get nervous because he's saying things. But that would have to be voted by this committee, but we gave notice it might be needed. So Mr. Klein talked about a possible update. It's been several years since the study was done. And, you know, I think he was talking about starting it this year if possible. So you want to just give us an update or some thoughts?
So my thoughts, ooh, that's loud. So my thoughts are that what we're talking about is assessments. And the assessments were done either 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and for all the entities. And when I talk about entities, I'm talking about the schools, the libraries, town hall, police, criminal side, the SCADA system, and then Nathaniel Witherall, what I'll call the medical side. So there's a, when I say side for police and for Nathaniel Witherall, there's a certain part of technology that the IT department supports. And so any really cybersecurity falls under that umbrella in my mind. But then there's a completely separate network at police, and there's a completely separate, I would say, systems that are medical or in the cloud and not really under the umbrella of IT. So all of the entities, so Apollo's been working with all the entities and has been working through those assessments, but they feel that some fresh assessments might be in order to look at the new threats, to see where these entities are in their progress, and to come up with a fresh list and reevaluate it. I think the difference is, and I'm just going to speak very carefully with the idea that maybe we go to executive session, or if you want, I can come in tomorrow for I think you said there was an audit committee.
I believe there's an audit committee. I don't know if it's on the agenda, but I'm sure that if appropriate, Mr. Benarski and David Alfano, the chair of the committee, thought it was appropriate that they'll
Okay.
ask you to come. But in the meantime,
Sure.
you
So-
asked for this, and so, and
Yes.
we've been communicating this, so we really want an update, and,
So yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I think we discussed, and with Mr. Menarski too, the possibility of using finance consulting services as was done previously before, I think. So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Okay,
but
and
just-
then the one thing I should say too is that what I submitted to you was predicated on conversations I had with the town administrator about certainly respecting the autonomy of all the entities and their technology, because I believe in the decentralized nature of the technology groups, because I think they have people in place that understand the nuances of that technology and how it interacts with the business processes. But what I submitted to you really was the idea if on top of that I paid more attention to the digital risk associated with what every entity was doing to make sure that we lowered the risk, or whether there was enough risk to warrant more attention. And so that's where this idea of the assessments came out. And so that's the $60,000, and the $30,000 was, what if I took a role not managing their technology, but working with Apollo and each entity and looking at the risks and making recommendations. So for example, if the people at Sewer and their SCADA system, if we determine, hey, there's something we could do to tighten up security, that I could facilitate that better than if you had independent entities coming at you. And so that was,
And so it's been 4 or 5 years, since it was originally done. And I think, David, you were probably involved back in then, or no?
But-
maybe it was-
but,
Can I
yeah.
just finish what I was going to say?
Go ahead.
And then, this would only bring the overview up to date. And so much has changed in cybersecurity, although they've been on our, CISO for this time. So this is just the suggestion of Mr. Klein and our town administrator, Ben Brain. David,
damn it. Oh, okay.
you don't want to talk? Doesn't want to talk. Leslie?
So I don't know if you had more to add to this. This is a first, I'm not sure the Budget Committee is the first place to be discussing this. This is an audit committee responsibility on cybersecurity, and I think certainly recommendations of next steps should come from the audit committee. I think the Budget Committee can get involved in handling the financing if it should be coming from our department. But I hadn't heard this kind of discussion at an audit committee cybersecurity briefing before, so I'm kind of surprised it's on our agenda first. So it was good to learn new information, but I think more
But-
discussions warranted.
So Mr. Weisbrod did ask if there was more information at our, one of our other budget committee meetings, and so that's why it was put on the agenda, to give the additional information. I don't have any additional information other than what we're talking about here, just we all know. Harry, do you have something?
Yeah, I just, I did speak to Tom, so I understand the concept here, and I think it makes good sense for not a lot of money to be really, really diligent. But I'd suggest the audit committee's meeting at 10 tomorrow morning, but it's not on their agenda, but we've got some time to work with this if we need to spend money from the finance department consulting, but in Tom's conversation, he thought that, maybe he had some extra funds in his budget that could go to this. So maybe you tee this up for the May meeting of the audit committee. And then, if you think there's going to be an expenditure, you tee that up with the budget committee and the full BET at our May meetings.
So,
think.
yeah, either way, I think, or check in with, Mr. Menarski is here. I don't know what's on the agenda tomorrow, whether there'll be time to, Mr. Alfano, no. So I think the May sounds good. But I think this starts out the conversation. And, I don't remember the dates of either, I guess I could tell you what the date of the Budget Committee meeting in May is, the 14th of May. And do we know what the date of the Audit Committee meeting is in? Maybe Samantha knows what the date of the Audit Committee meeting in May. She's looking that up now.
The audit committee in May meets on the Wednesday, the 8th at 10 a.m.
So that meets on Wednesday, the 8th at 10 a.m. And we'll coordinate with David and then Alfano.
I'll mention it to David tomorrow because I'll be at the audit committee.
And then, as I said, the Budget Committee meets on May 14th.
Oh, and I'll just say
And you
too-
can also, I'm sorry, I was just going to say, and then in the meantime, you can see if you have any funds availability, and we can coordinate with Mr. Menarski in terms of consulting money, if that's the direction that's needed.
So the initial funds that I submitted, I had thought that would be for next budget and not necessarily in this fiscal year. And by May, I start getting concerned whether I can spend it within the fiscal year. So,
No,
If it's
what we,
encumbered, it's okay.
what we approved previously in the budget is the 30,000 is actually not available until July 1st, but of course you can go ahead and get organized and whatever. These funds that we're talking about would be encumbering, as I understand it, Mr. Menarski can step in here, some amount, if the audit committee thinks this makes sense, some amount that would be a combination of what you think you have left and then the remainder of what you think it's going to cost to see if we can use some consulting funds. And Mr. Menarski so far has been receptive, and Mr. Geiger, I think, to that. Mr. Menarski.
Couple questions through you. We only need to encumber if we need to spend the money past June 30th. So is this a project that's going to be supplementing the Apollo contract, or does this require an RFP?
we would likely supplement the Apollo contract, which, by the way, is a GSA contract. It's a Schedule 70. But I am concerned, and I think I found in the past, that if the work isn't done in the fiscal year, it's sometimes difficult to get that encumbrance. Even if it was encumbered and you find yourself in an August, September, I'm not sure whether I can spend that. Because I've had in the past, it's like, no, this invoice is for this fiscal year. So even if you had it encumbered,
Mr. Menarski,
Second question,
can you respond to him? Can you give him?
no,
any-
if he doesn't spend it by June 30th, we encumber it, and we spend it next year. There's two sets of 150,000. The second question is, Tom, you said 30 plus 60. Are we talking $90,000 or $30,000?
well, I think what we're talking about is $30,000 in the next fiscal year. And then, and that funding was for me to work with Apollo and
Michael Tang.
Yeah, yes, and the other entities as well, and just, like I said, take a larger role in the risk evaluation from a digital risk point of view. So that's that money. And then there's the evaluations themselves, which I don't think we could get all of them done within this fiscal year. So, like I said, my initial thought was to do it in the next year, and to work with whatever funds I have now to see what assessments, I should say assessment, not evaluations, can get done in the May, June timeframe. I could come back after that and see, where we are as well.
Pete, do you have more questions, or does that respond to your questions?
I just want to go, no, I have no more questions. The reason I was hesitant about tomorrow, because I think it's too early, there's other people that may be involved, Michael Ting, Apollo, et cetera, et cetera. Tomorrow is the annual presentation from RSM, EOS. They're combining the closeout of the last year audit and the presentation for next year. So they can be there 2 or 3 hours, and I wouldn't want poor Tom showing up and sitting there for 3 hours. But that's the reason why I was hesitant to put it on the April agenda.
So, Tom, so we've given you the dates of both audit and budget for May, and kind of a little bit of a path here, maybe?
It gives me some time to solidify things, like, so.
And then maybe come back
Yeah.
with like a little piece of paper.
Yes, that's fine too. And I think, and I really want to spend some time working with town administrator, making sure that we're clear what my role would be. Again, not for running technology for the entities, but just a veneer of looking at the risk
Right.
portfolio.
We're not talking about organizational change. We're just
Right.
talking about an update, a reassessment, I guess, or assessment, update in the assessment of our cybersecurity townwide. Leslie?
So I'm very confused as to what we approved in the budget, what you're talking about. We don't have to call about here, but when you do talk about an audit, I think
Do you
you
mean
gotta
the
be very-
30,000?
Even the 30,000 that, yes, was
Okay.
in the budget that's not yet approved, and then the, what's currently on the table here. And you talk about a new responsibility of a risk, understanding the risk throughout the organization. You're talking about organizational changes. This is now expanding into different roles that I don't quite understand yet.
Okay.
I'm not saying, asking for clarification now, but it needs to be as this thing moves forward.
I wanted to make it very clear, I was not talking about any organizational changes whatsoever. If it sounded like I was doing the opposite, giving people comfort, no organizational changes, but this is to understand any risk and to, update the assessment.
I too think this is extremely unclear. I've always thought you, as this head of IT for the town, has this responsibility already in terms of the risk assessments across the universe.
Right. I actually don't see that, but
Well,
I understand that you do.
I do.
Okay.
I always thought that the execution of that risk belongs in each of the departments.
Agreed.
You have no responsibility for the execution at the police department, DPW. That's owned by DPW and the police department. But you do set, and you always have set, the standards, the parameters, and the objectives in terms of the cybersecurity plan. So I, like Ms. Moriarty, I'm confused. I don't think you've talked to me about any of what you're planning. It's murky, it's unclear. And so that's kind of my take.
I think, David, you did hit on, I don't see that as my responsibility at all in my current role, and I've, in my opinion, stepped up to do that. So I would like to solidify that, and I do think we should clarify that. But that's something I'm working on with the town administrator.
So this, David, once again, repeating, this really arose out of, it's probably now 6 months ago, the BOE advising in an audit committee, to everyone's surprise, that it was no longer using Apollo. We had always talked about one corporate entity, just at least for that umbrella, to understand the risk assessments, and maybe to make sure, after they've executed everything, that, the remediation is in line with the recommendations. I mean, that's what I would do as from a consulting study if I were doing the study. But this is nothing more than, the umbrella for the town, which I think you and I are in agreement that that was the intent and our understanding initially. And, but I've never considered anything here other than just exactly what we're talking about. So Tom, thank you. I think,
Okay.
does anyone have any more questions? No. So I think you kind of, thank you for coming today. And, I think that there's some next steps, and we'll look forward to, hearing more from you next month. In the
Yes,
meantime,
I will bring some more clarification.
and then also you can figure out, in terms of funds, maybe get a better handle, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so I'm going to thank you very much, and I'm going to move on to approval of BET Budget Committee meeting minutes. Ms. Moriarty said she'd rather defer March 1st. We have two other sets. We have minutes from February 27th, which is our BET Budget Committee decision days. February 27th is decision day 1. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Harry Fisher, seconded by Leslie Moriarty. Those in favor?
Aye.
400, those are approved unanimously. And then we have the minutes of, again, BET Budget Committee, decision day 2 for fiscal year 25 budget. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Harry Fisher,
I'll second.
seconded by Leslie Moriarty. Those in favor? 400. I have no chair's report other than to confirm with Mr. Geiger that we're a little too early once again this month for an update in the economic conditions report. Roland, is that a correct statement? And so we have a final item, which is
I move we adjourn.
moved by Harry Fisher, seconded by
Second that.
David Weisbrod. And those in favor? 400, and we're adjourned at 1:49. Thank you very much, everyone. Pete, Roland, Samantha, and Karen Vassilotis is in our audience. Thank you.